CGC Sports Illustrated. This is podcast episode number 4. Today, I'll be covering two main topics. Number one, I've had a lot of questions lately about the collectability of specialty issues or niche areas of the hobby. So we'll talk about that. And then number two, I'll reveal my list of the 20 most collectible Sports Illustrated issues from 1975 to present. So on my last episode, I did 1954 to 1974. So go check out episode number 3 if you missed those. I also want to mention what seems like has become my disclaimer and something I address in every issue. I only collect newsstand issues. Subscription issues, even those with mailing labels removed, are not very collectible and don't have much value. Again, I've done deep dives on this in previous videos, so go check out those videos if you want more information. First topic. So I want to get into a little bit more granularity of the collectability today of niche issues and dig into these specific categories. These are all questions that I get that you send to me. So if you have questions on anything, it's likely that others have the same question, and I'd love to have an opportunity to address it in a podcast like this. So drop a comment here on YouTube, DM me on social media. I'm on every platform. It can be exhausting keeping up with all the platforms, but it's a lot of fun. And it's the same thing on all of them. It's CGC Sports Illustrated. You can also email me at cgcsportsillustrated@gmail.com. One more thing that I think it's really important, and that's for me to be as transparent as possible with you. So when I'm showing you an issue or I'm mentioning an issue, if I own that issue, I'm going to do my best to remember and mention that. I don't know if I'm always going to remember to do that, but I'll try. What I don't want is for you to think that I'm hyping up an issue just because I own it. So I'm going to mention them a lot in this podcast. When you hear me mention that I own an issue that I'm talking about, that's not me bragging about my collection. It's just me wanting to be as transparent as possible. Okay, so let's dig in. First one we're going to cover today is a question that I get a lot, and that is Sports Illustrated for kids. Are these collectible? For years, this was really irrelevant in collecting, but that started to change, and it's starting to change for one reason only, and it's really specific and has nothing to do with the actual magazine. Sports cards, primarily a Tiger Woods rookie that was distributed in this issue that I've got pulled up right here, December 1996 of Sports Illustrated for Kids. I don't want to get distracted by sports card talk because there's a million other places you can go to for that information from people that are a lot smarter on the subject than me. The Tiger Woods rookie card from this issue in PSA 10 or BGS 9.5 has been selling very strong in the $10,000 to $20,000 range. There was even a BGS 10 that sold for $40,000. Tons of controversy around this card because it's a perforated card, brings a whole host of other issues to the table. There are a handful of other cards that have been distributed in SI for kids over the years that are collectible, but the Tiger Woods rookie from this issue is the big one. So whatever or not SI for kids is whether or not it's collectible is kind of tricky. And I say this on my podcast a lot. It depends. For the most part, it's the cards and not the magazine itself. Maybe one or two issues. I've seen a few issues graded and sold that have a little bit of value outside the collectability of cards. I think there's a Zion Williamson out there that popped a 9.8 in an SI for kids and sold for a decent amount. But those are really one-offs now. I'm not seeing a trend in that. I don't collect these, but I certainly keep my eye out there for this December 96 issue with Larry Johnson on the cover, which, by the way, I think it's hilarious that Larry Johnson's on the cover of this issue, because if you've seen and heard my other podcasts, Larry Johnson is always the example I use of a player who is a really good player and popular, but really doesn't have a lot of Sports Illustrated collectability today. And now he's on the cover of the one SI for kids issue that everybody's looking for. But I can tell you it's not because Larry Johnson's on the cover. It's because of that Tiger Woods card that's in there. Okay, next one, niche topic. Special commemorative issues and collector's issues. So I own this issue, by the way. It's out for grading right now for CGC. And the interesting thing about this is the short answer is they're not as collectible. I just kind of love this cover. Plus, I got one in awesome condition that I think's got a chance of popping a 9.8. I don't view this as collectible. Always keep in mind when I talk about that and I say that, we're dealing on a huge spectrum of collectability. Doesn't mean they're not collectible at all. What I'm saying is I don't see the demand for these issues that I see for your average run of the mill star or team or weekly issue. I think there are two main reasons that these collectors issues are not as collectible as you think they would be. The biggest one is CGC lists commemorative issues separately in the census. And that's not but good because it really doesn't give the issues the visibility that the normal weekly issues have. Number two, from what I've seen, there's just a ton more of these out there and they're in amazing shape. And that makes total sense. Keep in mind why Sports Illustrateds are so collectible is they are so rare. There are over 300 87 Fleer Michael Jordan rookie cards graded at PSA 10. There is one copy of Michael Jordan's rookie Sports Illustrated issue at 9.4, and there's none graded higher. We love this because it's rare to find the issues and find them in a high grade. And so you don't get that with these. And it does make sense. If Cal Ripken retires, for example, and I'm a huge Orioles fan, which I'm not, or a big Cal Ripken fan, I'm going to go out and buy a copy of this, or I might buy 2 or 3 or even more copies of this issue. I might read one, and then I'm going to bag and board the rest and collect them. And 20 or 30 years later, these things are everywhere, and they're in amazing shape. I talk about it a lot, that rarity of Sports Illustrateds and high-grade Sports Illustrateds. So this just doesn't make it as rare. I think you see this with not only fewer sales of these collectors issues, but they go for less money than the same stars, rookie or second issue, even in another issue. As always, there are exceptions, and there's a big one in this category, and it's really specific. It's the Patriots 2002 Super Bowl commemorative issue featuring, on the cover, of course, Tom Brady. And what makes this interesting is not only, obviously, Tom Brady is collectible and spectacular, it's the first time Tom Brady ever appeared on a Sports Illustrated issue. That's very odd. Normally, a star's first appearance is on a standard weekly issue. So Tom's first appearance was on that 2002 Super Bowl issue. So that makes it more collectible, and it's Tom Brady and a couple of other things like that. But that's the exception rather than the rule. With the sales data I've seen, and I will show you the Tom Brady amazing. That's generally how it's referred to, Tom Brady amazing. If I had the same grade on Tom Brady's, this issue, the Super Bowl collectible issue, and then if I had the same grade on Tom Brady's first weekly issue from April 15th, and you look at some side-by-side sales data, the issue from April 15th, 2002 is going to be more collectible. But this one is the exception. The Tom Brady amazing issue is exception. I do own this one. It is out for grading right now with CGC. Next one, tribute issues. So these are different. Don't confuse tribute issues, which are released as a normal weekly Sports Illustrated issue, with commemorative issues, or what's called SI Presents, Sports Illustrated Presents issues. SI has done tribute issues for Walter Payton, Mickey Mantle, which I own both of those, Ted Williams, Johnny Unitas. These are done when a big athlete passes away, and they're part of the normal weekly issues that Sports Illustrated produces. They're part of the census with the weekly issues because they are, in fact, a weekly issue. These are more collectible, even though most of them are modern. The Mickey Mantle, obviously, is probably the most collectible out of all of them. You'll see 9.8s in this issue sell for $500 and up. And it's no surprise, Mickey Mantle, he's still very collectible. And it's a nice looking issue there with him on the cover, and it's a nice remembrance after they pass. The next one is Sportsman of the Year. And I'm going to show this LeBron example here. The short answer is, from what I've seen from the sales data, I don't see these as being any more collectible than the average issue of that star. It's a regular weekly issue, so it's not separate in the census, but I don't see a whole lot of demand for these. This LeBron issue, Sportsman of the Year, doesn't seem to be any more collectible than any other LeBron issue from 2012. I get this question a lot. Year in pictures. Traditionally, these covers were filled with images, like a ton of images from the weekly covers from that year. This one's a little bit different. Even if there was a huge star on one of these, I don't think it makes it any more collectible than anything else. You know, for the most part, there's no additional value that I see in sales prices over a normal issue. This is the 1999 Women's U.S. World Cup soccer issue. This is probably my favorite year in pictures issue. I just think this is a cool one. This is Brady Chastain, who, you know, hit that game-winning PK goal in the Women's World Cup in '99, and then, you know, took her shirt off and had her sports bra on underneath it. And it was, you know, pretty cool moment that got a ton of coverage. Despite all of that, this just isn't all that more collectible than any other issue that she might be on. This is an interesting one. So this I'm calling athletes in a poor light. This is one of the Michael Jordan covers that's probably one of his least collectible. And it's because Jordan's not presented in a good light. He's not dominating. He's not crushing it. It's not this amazing posterized shot. It's talking about how the Pistons were able to shut Jordan down with the Jordan rules in the 80s. And it's a picture of Joe Dumars with his hand on Jordan's head and keeping him down. If you're a Michael Jordan fan, that's not what you want. You want to celebrate the achievements of the star, not see things about where they're, you know, painted in a poor light. You know, keep in mind, Sports Illustrated viewed itself as sports journalism over the years. And so they covered a lot of stories that were pretty ugly. The OJ murder cover, not collectible from anything I've seen. We collect athletes because we want to celebrate their achievements. We generally don't want to be reminded of their faults. By the way, I own several copies of this issue graded just because I'm trying to get all 50 Jordans, even though it's not all that collectible. I get this question a lot. So tragedies in sports. So there's a great issue that Sports Illustrated came out with after 9/11. I mean, this is an amazing issue after the Boston terrorist bombing from a few years ago with the Boston Marathon. The journalism in them is spectacular. The writing is amazing. The photography is great as always. Similar to the last point, people generally collect achievements and not things related to tragedy. So I'm not seeing anything where these issues are any more collectible than your normal average run-of-the-mill issue. Oh, this one's too bad. So Olympic issues. And the answer is unfortunately no. I think it's too bad. I love the Olympics. For those 2 weeks every 4 years, you know, that's all I do is watch them. But I haven't seen anything where these issues are really collectible. Similar to my Tom Brady example, there's usually an exception. The exception here is the 1980 U.S. hockey team, the Miracle on Ice Sports Illustrated cover. That is absolutely collectible. But your average run-of-the-mill, even with stars like Carl Lewis, and there's a classic Mary Lou Retton cover from 1984, and Michael Johnson, and all the athletes over the years, I just don't see them. I haven't seen anything that shows them being collectible. I'd love it if they were. I think they're cool, but they're just not. Let's talk about autographs. Man, this is a tricky subject, especially with the way CGC deals with them. I could do an entire podcast on autographed Sports Illustrated and how they're graded and the minefield that you've got to navigate associated with it. For now, all I'll say is autographs are very tricky to do correctly to maintain as much value as possible. There are a ton of variables. I've talked about it in previous podcasts a little bit. I'll dig in the future, but just kind of be careful. There's a lot of autographed Sports Illustrateds out there. And if you get them graded, it's a minefield to navigate. I talk about it in podcast episode number 2. Go check that one out. I'll dig into it more in the future, but autographs are tricky. Just kind of keep that in mind. Non-athletes on covers. I think the jury's still out. There's not a ton of non-athletes on covers, maybe 15, 20 issues in the history of Sports Illustrated where an actor or a politician, there's several presidents on the cover and that sort of stuff. I think the jury's still out on this. I think they're really cool. But just because I think they're cool doesn't necessarily mean everybody else does and are willing to pay for them. There's a number of these issues. You know, I own the Gary Cooper issue from 1957. I own one of the Ronald Reagan issues. I think those are the only non-athletes. There's a Big Bird issue with Mark Fidrich on the cover from the late 70s. It's kind of a cool cover, but jury's out on that. I just don't think there's enough data to show that they are collectible or not, but it's really interesting. And I think they're pretty cool, but haven't been proven to be collectible yet. Okay. So topic number 2 I'm covering today is my list of the most collectible issues from 1975 to present. And like last time, I'll include a couple of honorable mentions or just some issues that I think are pretty cool that don't get enough attention. Just like when I did these issues from 1954 to 1974, I looked at every single Sports Illustrated cover for that, almost 70-year time span there. Or rather 50-year time span there. My first pass, I had about 60 or 70 issues. I knocked it down to 40. I had to do a couple others because I wanted to get it to be 20, which was like the last time. So I'm doing this in chronological order. This is not a countdown of the most collectible issues. So we're going to be doing this chronologically. I'm starting here with 1975. So this is Nolan Ryan's first appearance, June 16th, 1975. Good looking cover, full shot of Nolan Ryan in action. Very collectible, Hall of Famer, all-time great pitcher, very collectible issue. Man, this is one of my favorites. I love this issue. This is not Dr. J's first cover, but I just could not pass this issue up and have it make my top 20. This is Dr. J, May 17th, 1976. It's his second cover on Sports Illustrated. Highly collectible. I love it because he's got the ABA ball that's red, white, and blue. He's wearing that classic old ABA Nets uniform that's red, white, and blue with the stars on the side. He just looks like he's going to tear it up. I love that 6-inch afro on him. It's just such a snapshot in time from the 70s. Great cover here from Dr. J from 1976. This is a great issue. Man, Walter Payton's first Sports Illustrated issue. Highly collectible from the people I talked to. Very, very difficult to find a newsstand. This was November 22nd, 1976. One of the greatest running backs of all time. The guy could do everything. He threw passes for the Bears. He punted for the Bears. He was a runner like nobody else. He blocked amazing. I mean, you can't doubt Walter Payton and how awesome he was. Super, super hard issue to find in a newsstand in any sort of decent quality. Very rare. The population reports are very low on this. This is absolutely one of my top priorities to find one of these, and I haven't been able to do it yet. Love this. Larry Bird's first issue. So they Sports Illustrated recreated this. Gosh, I should have looked into that. It was another college athlete a few years ago that recreated this exact shot with that kind of orange-red background and a couple of cheerleaders there. But this is Larry Bird's first rookie cover from when he played with Indiana State in 1977 in November. Very, very collectible and another very 70s haircut, just like Dr. J there on Larry Bird, which I love. Yeah, not surprised. So this is Magic Johnson's. I mean, 1979 was all about the NCAA and Indiana State, Michigan State, and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Great cover. Impossible to find in a high grade. I think the population reports, I think the highest graded copy of this is like a 7.0 or a 7.5. Love him in the top hat and tails and tuxedo. This is November 1978. Magic Johnson's rookie issue and rookie cover, and super highly collectible, super rare, impossible to find. Yeah, just a great cover. I mentioned this earlier. The exception that proves the rule about how Olympics are not collectible, except for this issue. This is the Miracle on Ice issue from March 3rd, 1980 in the USA Hockey winning the gold medal in those Olympics. There's a lot of these out there. Makes sense. It was a seminal moment in sports. People, bought this issue, saved this issue, kept them in good shape. So the population reports are strong. Despite that, highly, highly collectible, and one I would love to own, but don't. I've bid on a number of them and negotiated with a number of people from them and never been able to just even get my own copy. So many great stars from the 80s that had these late 70s, early 80s, rookie covers. This is the great one, Wayne Gretzky, October 12th, 1981. I own this, a couple issues of this. Both of them are at CGC being graded right now. Great cover. I love the orange. I think that jersey just pops. It goes great with those old Oilers colors of that blue and orange. And again, another awesome early 80s haircut there on Wayno. So Wayne Gretzky, highly collectible in his rookie issue. Joe Montana. So up until very recently, I did own this one. I owned a 9.6 in this, the highest one in the world, and sold it very recently. But this is just a great cover. Very difficult to find in a decent grade. It's from January 1982. This issue came out right before they won the Super Bowl that year. I mean, Joe Montana, he was 4-0 in the Super Bowls, MVPs, national championship at Notre Dame, one of the all-time greats. I mean, up until just the last few years when Tom Brady took over, I mean, Joe Montana was considered the GOAT in all of football. So great issue, highly collectible, Joe Montana's rookie issue from 1982. Okay, so obviously we're into the the superstar quarterbacks, from the early '80s, and Elway is next. This is November 8th, 1982. I kind of like it. Some people don't, but I kind of like it when the athlete's first issue is in their college uniform, just kind of different and kind of cool. So this is John Elway when he was at Stanford. Super collectible, super hard to find in in good condition in newsstand. John Elway definitely makes the top 20 as most collectible. No surprise up next, we're in that trio of amazing all-time great quarterbacks from the 80s. This is a great one. Dan Marino's first cover from November 14th, 1983. He never made the cover when he was in college with Pittsburgh, but this is a great issue. I think there's one 9.6 out there on this. I don't believe there's any 9.8s. Very hard to find in a newsstand edition. Absolute megastar. That's why it's so collectible. Another, no surprise. I mean, this is, there are probably two holy grails of issues in this hobby, and one is the first Mickey Mantle rookie cover, and the second one is this Michael Jordan from November 28th, 1983. He's here with Sam Perkins on the cover from when he was at North Carolina. Very difficult to find in a high grade. There is a 9.4. There's one, and it's a pop 1 of 1 with none higher. Population reports are strong. These are currently selling well. Recently a couple of issues graded at like 7.5, sold in the $2,500 to $3,500 range. I own one of these at 6.5. That's the best I've been able to do so far. I've got another one out for CGC to be graded right now. Really difficult to find in good condition because it's a double issue. I've talked about this before. Thick magazine. This was the college preview in a double issue. All of that paper and the thickness of the magazine puts stress on that spine, makes spine break a lot easier, spine ticks a lot easier, pulls and tears away from the staples a lot easier. You see those staple pulls a lot on this issue, and tearing of the paper along the spine, right along those staples there. It's why it's so impossible to get it in such a high grade. So this is top 2 in collectability in all Sports Illustrated covers. Because it's Jordan, and man, still nothing hotter in collectible sports than Michael Jordan right now. Love this issue. So boxers, not as collectible as you might think. Ali covers, his early covers, sure. Mike Tyson, definitely. This is January 6th, 1986. This was before he was known as Iron Mike Tyson. He was called Kid Dynamite back then. This is before he won his first boxing championship. One of the reasons collectors like this is this came out before his rookie trading card. The Panini trading card from later that year is generally thought of as Tyson's rookie card. And this issue came out before that. Kind of rare, really desirable. I think there's a 9.0. That's the best there is. Tons of subscription issues out there on this. Very few newsstand issues. I love this Tyson cover. I love the full shot. You got the gold tooth up there. Just ripped. Great issue. Super collectible. I love that one. No surprise, the Dream Team is hugely collectible. Not only was that a huge Olympic moment, but I love covers, and everybody loves covers where you've got multiple superstar athletes on this. So this is from February 18th, 1991. You got Barkley, Ewing, Malone, Magic, Jordan, all looking fantastic in this cover. I'm surprised the population reports aren't bigger on this. This would be the type of cover that I thought people would have hung on to. They would have saved it. They would have bought extra copies, put them in bags and boards, and saved them for a long time. 9.6 is the highest rated out there. There's no 9.8. I own it in 9.6. Super collectible. In fact, I own several copies of this one. I made and easily one of the greatest all-time covers for Sports Illustrated. Dream Team, 1991. I love this one. Peyton Manning. So this is really cool what they did. This is Peyton Manning's rookie issue from when he was at Tennessee. This is his dad's Sports Illustrated cover from 1970. I own his dad's issue. I used to own this one. I sold it last year. I had it at a 9.8. it's just kind of a cool thing that they did there, where they did this split cover on the photo where Peyton's on the top and his dad, Sports Illustrated, is on the bottom. Nearly impossible to find in a newsstand at a high grade. There's one 9.8 in the world. There's a couple other graded with low grades. I think those low population reports on a rookie issue, a nice looking rookie issue with a great story with him and his dad, all those things combined easily made this top 20 and super, super collectible. All right, this one's no surprise here. So this is Tiger Woods, October of 1996. Just a great looking cover there. Tiger is been on the fourth for most covers in Sports Illustrated history. It goes Jordan, Muhammad Ali, LeBron at 25 covers, Tiger at 24 covers. Right or wrong, Tiger's been in the news a lot lately because of his car accident, and I feel terrible for Tiger, and who knows if he'll ever play again, but that certainly raised his profile, and everything Tiger is red hot right now. And that certainly applies to this Sports Illustrated issue. Big population report numbers on this. There's a ton of these out there graded at all sorts of levels. Doesn't stop the collectability of it. The prices are very, very strong on that. So here's Kobe's rookie cover, just like I talked about with Tiger, in a little bit different fashion. Obviously, Kobe's death last year, just made every one of us want to collect more things from Kobe Bryant. Like I said, he's on the third most Sports Illustrated covers. No, he's fifth. Kobe's fifth. This is his rookie issue. It's from 1996 or 98 rather. Sorry, and it's got Magic Johnson on it too. So I mean, astronomically collectible. It's some decent population numbers out there on this. There's several 9.8s, there's several 9.6s, a bunch of 9.4s and 9.2s. Everything Kobe is red hot right now, and the prices for these are going up and up and up. But that's just a great cover, and it's not only is it Kobe, not only is it his rookie issue, but you got Magic Johnson on there too. That's always going to make it even more collectible when you've got that other superstar athlete on there. If the Jordan issue and the Mantle issue are top two, this LeBron is probably number three. And if nothing else, and that's not in dollar amount, because these LeBron issues at 9.8, and there's a ton of them out there graded, lots of 9.8s. They're selling for about $2,000, $2,500 in that range. Lots of these graded, huge population report numbers, but it's LeBron. It's his rookie issue from 2003. He's got his high school uniform on there because he never played in college. Super, super collectible. LeBron is on fire. Everything basketball related has really been on fire the last year as far as prices go. And this one's certainly up there. I did own one of these at an 8.5. I don't own one right now. Okay, so I was talking about Tom Brady earlier with commemorative issues. This is his first weekly issue. So this was just later in the season, just a couple of months after he won the Super Bowl and had that commemorative issue. So this is April 2002. Tom Brady, the natural, his rookie Sports Illustrated cover. Good, solid population reports. A lot of these out there. There's some 9.8s and some 9.6s. These are going for a high dollar amount. So, I mean, it's Tom Brady. The guy just won't stop winning Super Bowls, and people won't stop paying money, and a lot of money, to collect his memorabilia. So that it's definitely up there, top 20. As we get toward the more modern issues, this became a lot tougher because I don't think you know what the next superstar's out there. There's tons of speculation in sports cards. You got these guys collecting all these rookies that nobody's ever heard of and all this stuff, and they're going for huge money. You just don't see that in Sports Illustrated as much. They issue fewer issues. And I think last year's baseball season was a little funky and not great for Aaron Judge, but Aaron Judge certainly makes my my cover of most collectible of the last 50 years. He's just a beast. I mean, he's just an imposing figure, big, strong, hits the lawn ball, hits him a ton, and he plays for the Yankees, the largest media market in the world. Aaron Judge has super big potential going forward. There's a number of these graded at several levels, including 9.8, but I think this Aaron Judge, this being ranked here is more on future collectability than anything else, but a great cover. Next up, Pat Mahomes. He is the future of the NFL. I don't care that he just lost the last Super Bowl. He's already got one under his belt. He's going to play and likely win a few more. Dynamic, beautiful smile, marketable. He's the future of the NFL. The NFL knows it. They're going to market the hell out of him the next 15 or 20 years, or for as long as he can play. This is Pat Mahomes' rookie issue from 2019 rather. Good looking cover, highly collectible. I think there's maybe one or two 9.8s, not a ton, a lot of 9.6s and 9.4s, but super highly collectible. And the NFL is the biggest sport, and Patrick Mahomes is the future. So combine those two things, and it's going to be highly collectible. So that's my list. So now I'm going on to, these are my honorable mentions, or just issues that I think are cool. This one's not that collectible. I wish it was. This was a seminal moment when I was a kid. This is the catch. Dwight Clark catching the catch in the end zone with time running out for the 49ers to beat the Cowboys and go to go on to win their first Super Bowl. I love this cover. It's an iconic photograph, mildly collectible, but one that I just absolutely love. This is a great issue. So I'm always a big fan of multiple superstar athletes being on a cover, and that kind of, pushing its collectability up. So this is January 21st, 1985, Joe Montana and Dan Marino on the same cover side by side. It's a great looking cover and highly collectible. Okay, so this one, so the anniversary of WrestleMania 3 when Hulk beat Andre the Giant was just a couple days ago. And so this one's kind of been popping up a lot lately. I love this issue. I did own it at a 9.2. It was the highest graded copy in the world, still is today. I sold it last year, and I would easily pay double for what I sold it for last year. I can't believe I sold it for $400 last year, and kicking myself ever since, and would easily pay $800 to have it back today. It was a pop one of one, none higher. Not many of these graded. Wrestling still continues to be popular. Wrestling trading cards are becoming more popular. The guys from the 80s are always going to be these super iconic stars. This Hulk Hogan Sports Illustrated issue from 1985, it was the only time Hulk Hogan was on Sports Illustrated. Man, it's just a great cover, and I absolutely love it. And it is collectible, but really, really cool. I could be wrong on this, but this is Diego Mardona. I've got a couple soccer issues I want to talk about here. This is from July 1986. I've been told since I was 10 years old that soccer is the future. And soccer is the next big sport, and it's right around the corner, and it's big all over the world, but it's going to explode here in the USA. Still not there, 30, 40 years later after people have been saying that. But it is growing, and it's growing in interest. I mean, when people are interested in Premier League soccer in this country, and there is a sizable population that is, soccer is continuing to grow. The collectability of soccer cards growing significantly. There's an international market, obviously, for this, but there's a U.S. market for this. I think it's kind of very interesting. I think they're underrated. I do like this cover from 1986 of Diego Mardona. They're going to be super rare because people didn't save them, because most people in the U.S. didn't care about soccer in 1986. So they're going to be highly collectible, and I think they got great long-term value. Again, back to my theme of I love multiple Hall of Fame athletes on Sports Illustrated covers. I did own this one. I don't own it anymore. This is December 18th, 1989. Montana, Magic, Gretzky, all on one Sports Illustrated issue. Great cover there, and I absolutely love it. This one is underrated to me. This is Barry Sanders and his rookie issue. I think 9.2 is the highest grade out there. Not a lot of them graded, impossible to find in a newsstand. For my mind, I lived in Detroit for a short period of time. I went to a ton of Lions games at the Silverdome. I saw Barry Sanders play a lot. I mean, I saw dozens of Barry Sanders games. For my money, the most exciting running back I've ever seen. Still to this day, I've never seen anybody make cuts, spin moves, make defenders miss like Barry Sanders did. Retired early at age 30. Still had 5 or 6 good years left in him. Would have easily beaten Emmitt Smith and been the all-time leading rusher. I love this Barry Sanders rookie issue from 1990. Just an amazing, amazing issue. So these are still my honorable mentions. Oh, here's the Pele one. This one was a little bit out of order. So this is Pele, 1975. The only time that he has ever appeared on a Sports Illustrated issue. So it's his rookie issue. Pele soccer cards have gone through the roof recently. Huge numbers that are popping for strong grades on his soccer cards. Population reports on this are small. It's impossible to find in a newsstand. I think this is a high. This almost made my top 20 list. In fact, that's why I put it here, because it was so close. It was one of the last ones I cut. This Pele issue from 1975, massively collectible if you can find it. I almost put this one in the top 20 as well, but it didn't make the final cut. You know, I've talked about this before on other podcasts. There's a subset that goes crazy over swimsuit issues. There are people that just collect swimsuit issues. I do own this one, a couple copies of it. They're at CGC right now. This is Christy Brinkley. She made the cover several times, at least 3 solo shots of her 3 times. This is her first one from 1979. These are highly collectible in a high grade. The early swimsuit issues from the 50s and 60s at 9.0 and over will sell for, you know, $2,000 to $3,000 and up. This is the next level of collectability, those 3 Christy Brinkley issues. And then you get into the tier after that, which is more of the Elle Macpherson, Kathy Ireland issues in the 80s. But this Christy Brinkley issue, highly collectible, and I do own a couple copies of that. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. We're going to do it again real soon. Please like and subscribe here on YouTube. I am on every social media platform. You can follow me there. Facebook groups, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, eBay. It's all the same thing. CGC Sports Illustrated. You can email me, cgcsportsillustrated.com. Appreciate the time, and we'll do this again soon.